Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the latest polling as YouGov bring out one which promises spectacular results, if we can believe it. But even the general trends are not what a lot of people have been expecting. So let's look at the latest YouGov voting intention poll, which has generated probably too much excitement. It was published yesterday, and if it were to be believed, contains a few notable results, the most significant of which is that the Lib Dems share rose from 11% to 15% in the span of 5 days. Being clear, this does not happen. However, lots of people are getting very excited, going, oh, this is down to the Lib Dems including that small paragraph in their manifesto that I like. It's like, but we do science and maths on this channel. In reality, it's an outlier, although it may have been prompted to some degree by the fact that the fieldwork was taking place when the Lib Dems were launching their manifesto and other parties had yet to do so. That being said, if some of the Labour to Lib Dem vote is real and it's down to tactical voting, then this is going to be genuinely worrying for the Tories, because when it comes to polls, there's like two types of hazard for you if they're going against you. The first is the hazard of perception. For example, the same poll shows Reform UK just 1 point behind the Conservatives. Now, I won't believe this is real without a lot of polls and different types of poll saying the same thing. But if people see it and believe it, there's a good chance that they're not going to be swayed by the Tory argument that Reform UK supporters should vote tactically for the Conservatives in order to stop Labour. But it is a double-edged sword as well. If progressive voters think that the polls already show the Lib Dems in second place, they may not feel that extra tactical voting is needed. So it's important to point out that the polls do not show the Lib Dems in second place. 1 or 2 voting intention polls when rammed through a rough and ready MRP simulator does not tell you how the election results are going to pan out. Outside of general elections, before a campaign's launched, yeah, okay, it's the only tool we've got. But during an election, we have better tools. There's a reason why the major pollsters run full-scale MRP polls. The people commissioning them are not going to all the extra expense for a laugh. Second type of hazard with polls is the hazard of reality. Now, in reality, it's not common to see major swings in voting behaviour during a general election campaign. It will likely swing more than other times because parties are throwing money at an avalanche of campaign resources, and sometimes it does swing quite a bit, but it often doesn't change that much. It certainly doesn't as a sort of standard rule. But the good news is we probably don't need it to change by much. At the moment, we're flying a little bit blind on exactly how much, because the most up-to-date MRP polls were conducted before Nigel Farage joined the campaign and before Rishi Sunak blundered so badly on D-Day. And those are two very significant events. So the remaining MRP polls could be very interesting. So what are the genuine conclusions of the polling so far? Well, the first is that things are worse for the Tories than when the campaign began. Analyst Dylan Difford has showed that the polls indicated that the Tories have gone from being likely to win about 133 seats to about 101. So the few weeks of the campaign have seen them potentially lose a quarter of their already small haul of likely seats. Much of this likely to be a combination of Nigel Farage and D-Day. You can almost imagine the conversations at Tory HQ. Because remember, it's believed that Isaac Levidow did not want to have the election this early. Oh, Prime Minister, you appear to have called the election before we're ready. Polling shows we're going to suffer the worst defeat in history, and by some margin. This is suboptimal. Don't worry, Sunak says, I've got a cunning plan. 3 weeks later, so Prime Minister, I see your cunning plan has cost us another 32 seats. Congratulations. I'll tell you something else that's interesting as well. So YouGov published an article which tracks the news stories people have been picking up on each week, both using AI. Both Nigel Farage and D-Day have been noticed by a significant number of people. And whereas the news about Nigel Farage became noticed when it happened and then dropped off in prominence over the next few days, it's like it happened, people noticed, and then not noticing so much a few days later, the news about D-Day was being noticed by more and more people over time. So just after Sunak left D-Day early, 11% of people said that they'd heard about this story. A few days later, it was 26%. This is something that right now is growing, and that's a massive problem for the Tories, especially as that ill-advised ITV interview is to be broadcast today. I've seen a couple of clips, and my goodness me. I may have to talk about one of them in its own video this afternoon. It is as bad as some have been saying. The polls across the campaign haven't really changed much. if you make sure you're looking at trends, not focusing on individual polls, which could be outliers. But what change there is in the wrong direction for the Tories. So far, the story of this election is that we have this golden opportunity to finish off the Tories, and with each passing week, it becomes more and more plausible that this will happen. But it can only happen if enough people want it. The latest MRP polls show that it's absolutely possible to vote tactically to get the Lib Dems in second place, because remember, that's what this is about. If the Lib Dems are the official opposition, they get to dictate the political narrative in opposition. They get more questions in PMQs. They get opposition day motions. They get to be on every political interview or panel show. The media have got no choice in the matter. And what would you rather? That the leader of the opposition was a Tory arguing for the government to keep everything crap and continue the hunt for Brexit unicorns, or a Lib Dem leader of the opposition who's going to point out the problems which we have and which have been hidden from most people right now? And the way to get the Lib Dems in second place is twofold. First, the obvious one, the Lib Dems need to win as many seats as possible, but there are only so many seats they can realistically win. As far as the data shows, 75 is probably their ceiling, and that's a real moonshot. In theory, I suppose, if Sunak keeps failing hard, maybe it would increase a little, but don't imagine the Lib Dems could possibly win 100 seats. In reality, about 70 would be absolutely awesome. There are some people out there who are either just naive or deliberately enabling the Tories, who will try to tell you that we can flip loads of seats to make the parliament they would like to see. No, you would be talking about stupid swings of 30 or 40 points over the span of a few weeks. Labour have achieved between 30 and 40 points in some of their most hard-fought target seats over the span of 4 years. So, no, you're not going to get a party, particularly a party that's not even been discussed much in the mainstream media, like the Green Party, suddenly achieving a 40% swing in their favour over this last few weeks. It is the stuff of high stupidity. The Lib Dems have a realistic ceiling of seats they can win, which on its own doesn't complete the job. The next part of the plan is to reduce the number of Conservative MPs down to below 70. And significantly below, if you don't just want a by-election in the next parliament putting the Tories back in charge of the opposition. That means voting for other parties against them. Mostly Labour, of course, but not always. So the way we make sure that Keir Starmer and his government are asked real questions about real data, about real people, is to encourage anyone who's not particularly partisan, because I know not everyone is going to vote tactically, but for those who are prepared to vote tactically everywhere. It's not like, oh, well, you do it here, but the only place you don't need to do it is a place where the Conservatives cannot win. And there are plenty like that, because there's no way of knowing when there are enough votes in enough places to get this in the bag until the results are known on July the 5th, by which time it's too late. So encourage as many people as possible to get registered before the deadline next Wednesday. It's easy to do. So even if they don't want to vote, just get them to do it. It's really easy. They may change their mind. Doesn't do any harm to register. Then get them sorted to make sure they can vote, whether that be with postal voting or making sure they have valid voter ID. Show them the stopthetories.vote website, which also has links to all the things you need to be ready for the election, however you intend to vote. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe for further content and click the like button. You can also sign up for memberships if you'd like to support the channel further. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.